2002, I guess, I went to work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and I thought that, thank you, and I wasn't wrong about going to work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, that was really right. But I went to work for, thank you on behalf of EFF, who are fantastic and deserve your support as well as the CBLDF. But I want to tell you about the thing I was wrong about, because I got there and I thought that the big issue was going to be copying. And I thought that for a couple of reasons. You know, the reason that I thought the big issue was going to be copying is that the internet is fundamentally a medium. The internet is basically a medium made out of copies, right? So, you know, say back in 1995, there was a guy named Bruce Lehman, who was the Clinton copyright czar. And he was in charge of copyright policy in the heyday of the internet. And he went to the Al Gore National Information Infrastructure hearings in 1995. That's where we got the term information superhighway. It was the hearings on how we were going to demilitarize the internet, make it available to private people, private individuals, the private sector. And he said, you know, I've got a proposal for this, for accommodating copyright to the internet. And here's how it's going to work. What we're going to do is we're going to have separate licenses for every copy made on the internet. And Al Gore was like, every copy? And he was like, yeah, every copy. So here's how it would work, right? So I click on a web page, so the first thing that happens is the hard drive on the remote server spins up and makes a copy of RAM. That's one license. And then the RAM drops that into the network buffer, so that's another copy, which then buffers it up at the router, which is another copy. And then that makes the next hop to the next router, and that's another copy. And then that goes to your SWID proxy, and that's another copy. And then that goes to your browser, which makes a copy on the hard drive and a copy in RAM. And every one of these would be separately licensed, right? One after the other. And you know, what he was doing is he was treating copying as like a specialized, venerated activity, as though copying were something that involved like hiring an artist and having him paint a copy, or inking up a roller and running it over some paper and then sticking it on a press, right? As though copying were something that required an industry. And everyone who conducted copying would naturally have an office, and in that office would be a lawyer, and the lawyer could be relied upon to negotiate the licenses, right? Copying as an industrial process. Well, copying in the age of the internet is not an industrial process, and when you try to fit this model of copying to it, it just falls apart. So what you end up doing is you end up criminalizing all these people, 70 million American file sharers, and everyone just ends up kind of running from the law all the time. And it's not a good situation to be in, and it had all these ugly outcomes, right? 20,000 students have been, or young people and families have been sued. You might have heard that we just had one of the most seminal victories in this. There's a woman who, disabled single mother, who was accused of downloading gangster rap with her 5-year-old or 7-year-old daughter, who then said, well, but you can look at my hard drive, we never pirated anything, and they said, you know, the record industry, they hire these like boiler rooms full of collection agents who said, we don't want to look at your hard drive, we want $3,000, you're never going to hear the end of us. And she said no, and she found someone who's willing to defend her, and the RIAA went and looked at her hard drive and refused to release their report on what they found there, and then eventually the judge forced them to release, and it turned out they didn't find any evidence of piracy, but they figured they would still sue her, and they were, you know, asking for damages of $250,000 per track, and they accused her of downloading all these tracks. So all these bad outcomes happened. So it was natural for me to think that copying was going to be the seminal issue of the internet, but as I say, I was totally wrong. I was wrong because it turns out that what the internet is really, really good at, what the internet has been brilliant at, what the internet has been so good at that we've actually missed it happening, is making it cheaper to do stuff together. So this sounds like a kind of casual thing, like doing stuff together, like getting together for a game of basketball or getting together to go to a movie. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but in fact, doing stuff together is the principal endeavor of the human race. Right? Ronald Coase, the first chief economist of the Federal Communications Commission, won the Nobel Prize in economics, mostly for a paper he wrote called The Theory of the Firm, a 1937 paper that talks about the fundamental action of every firm, every institution, whether it's a religion or a political body or a corporation, of getting people to all get together and do stuff. Right? So General Electric is not a company that's generally electrical. Right? General Electric is a company that has a set of processes and tools that they use to get a bunch of people to do stuff together. That's why General Electric bought NBC. Not because General Electric thought that NBC was also generally electrical, but because they thought they could marshal those resources and get them all pointed in the same direction and moving to do stuff together.